materialization breath.
Uh-huh.
And let me make sure nobody's held hands raised really quick. Okay, perfect. So it's a handful of different ones.
Mhm.
So we think about think about what I want to materialize before starting the practice and then let it go.
Right. So great question. So what you're doing is, if you do the materialization breath without visualizing anything, kind of the things that are in your periphery, or the things that you're doing, things that, like, say you got interactions with your family and things at work, it's just materializing things and all the things you're connected to. But if you're wanting to materialize light specifically into a situation, and let's just be clear, light means movement, right? So a lot of times when we're wanting healing in a situation or a prayer, like this is going on, and please help this to be resolved. What you're saying is, there's no movement in this situation. Please bring in light so that I can move out of this, right? So doing the materialization breath is a way to specifically direct the light to the areas that you're wanting movement, either for healing or for praying or for generating a goal, achieving a goal. And so you'll contemplate it with your awareness on your heart, and basically you're just uploading the program that you want your heart computer to go through and process. And once you kind of contemplate it, you've really brought it up into the surface of the chakras and the mind, but it's also, your aura is also reacting to it a little bit. Then you let it go, it's still there. Then you do the materialization breath, and it materializes in the thing that's the greatest, the things that are the most at the surface, right? And so because you've contemplated it and had your awareness on your heart, it's like you're pushing it and bringing it to the front of the line so that the light hits that first. The light's going to hit some other things as well, but it's whatever you are really contemplating is where a majority of that light is going to be concentrated and focused on.
If I want to do it for a few things, do I need to do it separately for each thing? Or since it's cleaning things up to bring more light, it would work on everything at the same time?
If you don't focus on anything in particular, it will just kind of have like a smattering all the way around. But when you have very specific things, do it one at a time so that you have a concentrated effort there, and then you do the next one, concentrated effort there. So you could do one cycle on project one, then the next breathing cycle you could do project two, the next one project three, but don't try to do them all in the same breathing cycle. Even if, like, you have like a project and you say, okay, I'm going to clean out the garage. I don't know why I get focused on cleaning out the garage, but it's just something that's universal to most of us. So then you go, okay, well, I'm going to clean out the garage. Let's focus on cleaning out the garage. And then you go, okay, I need shelves, I need boxes, I need a broom, I need, and you start going through all these pieces. There's that little thing in the corner where there's all those nails and screws. I'm going to need some jars to put different nails and screws in so that they're organized and up on the shelf. Like, so then you start going, okay, let's focus on the jars for the nails and the screws. Okay, now let's focus on the boxes that we can put all that little mishmash of things and then put a label on it and stick it up in the corner. Okay, now we gotta scrub the floor because the car's been leaking oil on that, and then every time we walk through, it's a mess. So you almost can break it down and look at the different aspects of a project and work that, and then still come back and do the whole project, right? So a lot of times when you start to work it as something big in general, you'll go, oh yeah, I have this, but then little flashes of different pieces will come in. And sometimes it's things that you were aware of, but you weren't aware that they were connected, right? Because they might not be that literal, but it still is about your effort, your creative flow, your higher creativity, the things going in your world, and how things influence each other. So you might be focusing on the garage, and then you go, well, we're talking about like cleaning out the garage, but then we have a shed that also has a bunch of things. And I wasn't really thinking about the shed, but if we clean the shed out too, I can move some of the stuff from the garage to the shed. So now cleaning the garage became I got to clean the garage and the shed, because now I can combine these two and I can make the garage have less clutter in it by moving it to the shed. But the shed had to be cleaned out because it was kind of cluttery and I really couldn't stick anything in there. You know what I mean? It's like this thing keeps like going. So sometimes you'll see pieces where you didn't think they fit together, but it's when the intuition comes in, it says like all these pieces are connected. Let's work all these pieces and then bring it together. But sometimes you're still working them individually until it can kind of have an emergence and it becomes just this one project. If that makes sense. Sometimes I get too much down a rabbit hole, but I think, did that make sense?
Well, you were still hitting these questions and it kind of segues into the next question
Okay.
anyway. So, no need to be too specific like Kriya Shakti for it to actually do its thing, correct?
Right. So the thing with what people call Kriya Shakti, which is like when you write down your goal, you know, that the garage is clean and well organized and yada yada yada, you know, you write that out. So that is the intellect component of it. So with the materialization breath, you're using the intuitive side or the intuition, and the intuition doesn't really respond very well. Like if you try to do the writing thing with intuition, you know, you might not feel it, but intuition just goes, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah, I'll totally look at this list. And then they shove it in their pocket and they don't look at it, right? So intellect wants blow by blow, right? So intuition, it's more of an image or a metaphor or um, it's a little bit better about like visualizing the outcome, because like sometimes the difficulty is we have a goal and in achieving the goal the intellect goes, well, these are the 5 things that need to happen to get the goal, right? And what happens is with the intellect is that it loses sight of the goal and it gets focused on the process to get to the goal, like it's the goal. Like it's almost like intellect loses sight of what the goal is. So what it does is it tries to compensate for the lack of intuition by trying to focus on the process, where the process is more of that intuitive place. The intuition will go, well, we can do 25 steps that the intellect said needs to happen for this garage to get clean, or I can do 2 steps, have my neighbor help me, and we can be done in, 30 minutes, whatever it is. I'm just ad-libbing here, but intuition engages the process to achieve the goal and doesn't get stuck to the steps that the intellect said, this is what needs to happen to do it, you know. So it leaves it open for outside influences, outside help, and stepping away from what we thought and just like, oh, this is what needs to happen. And it can be very, very quick. Where when we do it from the place of intellect, the slippery slope there is we'll get so stuck on the process that sometimes we lose sight of the goal. It's kind of like what I was talking about over the weekend, you know, where I decided I wanted a car at a certain price. It was when I was young. I was like, I'm buying a used car, I gotta save up, yada yada yada. This is my amount that I can spend. And so I had a friend that was a car broker, and I told him, like, okay, I can only spend this much. I want like this car, this car, this car, this car, like, or that kind of like type of car. And he came back to me with a substantially nicer car. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that. I wanted, one of these cars. And he kept saying, I'm giving it to you for the same price. I took a trade in and I just need to get rid of it. It helps you, it helps me. I was like, yeah, but like, I wanted one of these cars. And like, I was just fixated. That's not the car that I asked for. I was asking for one of these. And he just looked at me and he goes, yeah, I know, but I'm giving you a much nicer car for the same price. And I had to really sit there and think about it. And I was like, it's the same price? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I've said it like 10 times. And I was like, but he goes, but what? And I was like, I was trying to come up with a reason like that's not going to work because it's not one of the cars that I determined ahead of time for me to achieve my goal. And I really had to sit there with it and go, well, I guess it's okay. And he goes, you're going to suffer through it. You're going to suffer through having a nicer car for the same price. And I started laughing. I was like, yeah, I guess I could suffer through it. And he left. I got the car and everything, and it was a much nicer car. And it was lucky that he took it in his trade. He got it for a good price, and then he just wanted to get rid of it and move on. And I realized how much of my life have I done that where I was like, no, the nicer thing, it's not what I thought. Like I want it. Well, I've already made my decision, and that's not part of my decision. So I was pushing away something substantially nicer and easier for these are the steps, right? And so in a way, it doesn't have to be an either or. Like you could do the materialization breath and the written form of materialization, but I would just do the materialization breath like first, because it kind of cleans out all that weird intellectual things. Like it just flushes it out. It's not forever, but you do it enough and it changes how the intellect sees that particular situation. But for me, if I just did the writing part, like for materialization, like you can say like, okay, we like the car's a perfect example. Why don't you want a nicer car? Probably can't get it for a price. I don't know, like I would go down the list of why that's not going to work. And then, okay, there's the one thing that I need to have done, and there's the 10 things that probably are not going to work. My mind was grinding on them. And then as I write my goal, I infused all those obstacles or that negative thinking into the goal. And guess what? That's what I materialize. I don't really materialize the goal. I materialize all the things that I know are going to keep me from meeting the goal. So for me, the writing one, like now it's okay, but like that's only been recent. Like in the old days, like if I wrote it, it was pretty much a guarantee that it was not going to happen. But if I sat and visualized like a ball with the imagery in it, or I did the materialization breath, boom, I could produce a result. It's because I got out of the intellect. Yeah,
And just still a few more
sure.
questions. How often to do it on something specific or good to do regularly to keep bringing in more light?
I would say both. Um, Good to do it on something regular, but like a lot of times when we have a goal, be it healing or improving a relationship, a spiritual practice, or just some like goal with work or project that you're trying to do. It depends on the urgency and the amount of time and the size of the project, right? So if it's just like, oh, I'm healing my shoulder or something like that, you can do a little bit of work on it and you're like, hey, shoulder feels good. And you don't really think about it for a while. And then your shoulder starts to flare up again. You go, I'm going to do healing on my shoulder again. And then you do it, right? And then say it's a relationship and you go, well, I just want deeper connection and everything like that. So you do it from time to time. Then it's like, okay, I want a deeper connection, but we're also fighting. So 911, I'm going to do this every day until the fighting stops and we get back to connecting. So then you would do it once, maybe even twice a day until that situation resolves, right? Then, you can say like, well, I want this relationship to go to the next level, to the next step. I want us to, be married or move in together, whatever it is. So that's a little bit of a bigger project. So you would do it consistently over a while until you achieve that goal, if that makes sense.
Doing it with the elements, like we did over the last weekend practice, is more powerful. But if also doing it without the elements, what is the best oil to use? Chakra root cleanser or any other options?
Depends on the goal, but we had that class at the end of last year. It was the very last class of 2023. called what is it? Thrive and Revitalize.
Mhm.
It's it's the materialization breath and choices depending on what the goal or the task is, be it healing, psychological healing, a goal, working with angels, working with a deity, whatever it is. And then each section has a bunch of single oils and blends for you to choose from. And if you've even had a little bit of stuff from us, you should be able to find something with each little area that you would want to use. And that was a free class. And so if you don't have that, can we make that available to them?
Yeah, Robert just put the link in
Yeah.
there, so.
So you can look up like specific to what you're trying to do, and then there will be a series of choices there for you.